Today we're going to talk for a few minutes about The Pearl by John Steinbeck. And John Steinbeck is his own story and post on an author bio. At some point we'll do that. But today we're just going to talk about this little novelette. It's actually based on a Mexican folk tale, which he kind of expanded. So that's kind of the time and place. There's a little small village of really poor individuals. And the story centers around a couple, Kino and Juana, who have a little baby named Coyotito. And he is stung by a scorpion, and they want to save his life. And so they run to the village doctor, but they don't have any money, so the village doctor won't see them and help save their son. So they go back to their village, and they're wondering what in the world to do, and Juana says a prayer that they will find a pearl, because that's what they do. They're fishermen, and they live off the sea, and they capture pearls, and usually they're, small or irregular, but they do bring enough money for these people to survive, and so that's kind of their livelihood. And so she wants to find a pearl that will be valuable enough that they can pay for the doctor and save their baby's life. And so they go out to fish, and Kino catches what they call the pearl of the world. And it's as big as a seagull's egg, and it's absolutely perfect, and it's not priceless, but it's very, very, very valuable. And it's interesting because there are a lot of themes that you can discuss in this work, and it's often required reading in a lot of English classes, maybe junior high, but certainly in high school. And so it's something that maybe a lot of us are familiar with, and it can be, if it's one of those stories that there are some absolute values. There are some things that seem to be pretty clear about what's right and wrong, and Kino and Juana seem to, they put the baby first, they put people first, which is fantastic. But the upper class that the doctor represents, and money and prosperity are really cast in a very negative light. There's a focus on the greed attached to capitalism, and so it could be mentored, especially with younger, impressionable children. It could be mentored in a way that could be kind of detrimental. It could be confusing for them, especially when it comes to concepts like free market, prosperity, and capitalism and economics. They could really get some confused messages about those kinds of ideas. There's also a strong sense of manhood and womanhood represented in the story, and that could also, if the wrong mentor were mentoring it the wrong way, then there could be a lot of confusion about those ideas and concepts, and because there's a point at which they find the pearl, and it's fascinating the different responses that Juana and Kino have to it. And it's because, men as a group throughout history and cross-culturally have been seen and seen themselves as provider protectors. That's been their role traditionally throughout all of society, and it probably sounds kind of sexist or something of me to say something like that, but I'm just stating an absolute fact that men have had that role traditionally and still predominantly do. They feel that need to go out and provide and protect for the women and children that they love. And so Kino feels that, and his response to the pearl is quite different than Juana. For her, it's just a means to save the baby because she's the mother and she's focused on the baby. But for him, it's a way to come out of poverty, to have his son have an education. He says something really interesting here. Even during his brain burned, even during his sleep, and he dreamed that Coyotito could read, that one of his own people could tell him the truth of things. And he sees it as a really awesome way of changing everything for them permanently. He doesn't want it just to save Coyotito, which he does want to save his son, but he wants it to do more than that for his family. On my page 57, he's talking to her, and Juana's trying to convince him that the pearl is evil. Let us destroy it before it destroys us. Let us crush it between two stones. Let us throw it back in the sea where it belongs. Kino, it is evil, it is evil. Now, they're having a really horrible experience. They're being tracked and hunted because of this pearl, and their lives are totally turned upside down. And Kino is determined to have the pearl turn into something good for their family, but she's projecting what the people around them are doing, the way they're behaving and responding to the pearl, as the pearl itself, that the pearl itself is evil, that all the problems that have been created by the pearl would disappear when the pearl disappeared. And, you know, there's a lot of value in considering, what if prosperity had come in a different way? And what happens to us when prosperity comes, and how is prosperity earned? And, you know, it's kind of like someone that wins the lottery. Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? And what makes the difference between it being a good thing or a bad thing? And is the money the problem or the people the problem? Anyway, Kino keeps saying, believe me, I am a man. And he says, no one shall take our good fortune from us. We will not be cheated, I am a man. And he says, I am a man several times. It's really important to look at that and what that means and why he keeps saying that and what that has to do with the differences between genders. It's just, you know, it's there, it exists, it continues to exist, and so it's worth discussing. And that's why this book can be a valuable resource in the right hands with the right mentor who's really trying to pull truth from it. But I'm going to put it up under controversial books because when mentored poorly, or when not mentored at all, when there's no guide for the pearl, then I can see how it could have some damaging character effects on a younger individual. Here's a few things I really think you should consider. Consider the genders and the difference between husband and wife and manhood and womanhood. Consider prosperity, consider economics. Consider Kino's pride and what help he really does need and what help he thinks he needs and what help he's seeking. Consider whether the pearl is a blessing or a curse, and whether the pearl in and of itself is a problem, and if getting rid of it will really solve the problem or not, if Juan is right or not. She tries to get rid of it. Consider what the doctor first says about the pearl and what that means and how that plays out. Consider the classes. Them representing the lower class, the doctor representing the upper class. Consider their response. Consider the class problems in today's society. Consider how this kind of situation would play out today, and what the poor may need in order to elevate them to handle this situation better in the future. Those are all really super valuable considerations and themes to think about. There's also some really fantastic symbols that you can look for. Shadows, the pearl itself, music, and evil all are symbols that Steinbeck uses very effectively, and he really is a brilliant writer. There's no question. Also, evil, capitalism, greed are some very important themes, as well as roles and gender. This again would be a great read for a book club because it's short. It's written in it's almost like a folktale. It's taken from a folktale. He's turned it into a story with dialogue and all that kind of thing, but it still has that essence, and it's written in a very simplistic form. I mean, even younger children can understand all the language, but the ideas are deep, and the ideas are very mature ideas. So it's a way to introduce younger readers or just like high school age young adults to more mature ideas and have important conversations without having the struggle of language. So it's a good intro. That Way Tuck is Everlasting is another one that I another post I did recently. That's that same kind of idea, that it's shorter, it's easy language, but it introduces you to deeper concepts and can generate really valuable discussion. But a book club, even of adults, men or women or a mixed group, can have a really valuable, very, very valuable discussion on these themes. It's interesting how the story plays out. I won't ruin it for you, but it's a sad ending, and it's, you know, you can really ask yourself the question, is that likely? Would this happen in real life? Is this the kind of does this thing really happen to people, and why does it happen, and what are they lacking, what are they missing, what would have made it different for them, what can make it different for us when good things happen or bad things happen, how should we respond in those character building, character revealing moments. So I did enjoy it, but I'm looking for principles, I'm looking for important themes and symbols, I'm looking for human nature, natural laws, and there's plenty of that. Steinbeck was really had some great things to say. Unfortunately, just sometimes was confused in his own value system, so sometimes in his writing the value system gets really screwed up. But this is one of his that I think is more valuable than probably some of his other writings. And I do think that you should recommend it, but that you could read it, should read it. I would say it can be controversial, but when well read, well discussed, well guided, it can strengthen character, build character, when the truth is pulled from it and the rest is left there. So that's The Pearl by John Steinbeck. Please join us for more blog posts in the future. Like us on Facebook and share this with a friend. We'll see you next time.